implemented.
Alur Kingdom Prime Minister Vincent Ochieng was pivotal during this meeting, which attracted hundreds of residents.
To understand why is the tea losing progress. He brought the tea to fight poverty, but why is this tea losing progress? And he wanted to have this discussion with the stakeholders, and that's why in the discussion deliberation it was a question of the key understanding from these stakeholders. What is going on?
The Bishop, Nebi Diocese, the Right Reverend Alphonse Wathokudi, called for reconciliation and forgiveness to ensure the project benefits beneficiaries. Report compiled by Haruna Mtesazira.
Now, those are times when you realize that our cultural influence does indeed speak for development and seek for development. So if one was wondering the roles there they are. Now, moving on, the Electricity Regulatory Authority is engaging with all players dealing in both electricity generation and supply to determine the electricity tariff for the year 2020. Now, in this engagement, the public also consulted to give feedback on the quality of service, but suggest how to be served better.
Each year, both generators and distributors of electricity apply to the Electricity Regulatory Authority to determine the electricity tariffs. The Electricity Regulatory Authority comes in to minimize exploitation of electricity consumers. In this process, a public dialogue is held to involve consumers in determining the electricity tariffs, but also get feedback on the services they receive. In this year's discussion, urban authorities raised the issue of lowering electricity tariffs for street lighting.
The power sectors will benefit when we light the city to full capacity. And my humble request is, why can't we reduce specifically for the city and other municipalities? We reduce the power tariffs for street lighting.
Also, the good news, the regulator has already reduced the street light tariffs by half to encourage this consumption. So we are working with the KCCA on a partnership on how to improve street lights across Kampala.
However, the Electricity Regulatory Authority cannot project the electricity tariffs for next year until all applications are submitted to the authority by the generators and power distributors are discussed.
Because we have to open up those applications and look at the justifications and the things that are put there. So to be able to know whether the tariff will go high or come down is going to happen towards the end of the year or around Christmas time.
The government is making efforts to ensure that Ugandans, even those in rural areas, get connected to electricity because it plays a major role in transforming people's lives. Adiana Kute, UBC.
Thank you, Adiana. Moving on, a number of youth in Uganda have come into harm's way in search of employment. Now, human traffickers have taken advantage of the situation and duped the youth into going abroad, especially to the Middle East, where most of them have been dehumanized. Now, this is in spite of government's efforts to engage youth into embracing vocational skills that help them into competing favorably on the job market.
Ugandan universities and other tertiary institutions churn out an average of 100,000 youth annually onto the job market. However, most of these remain unemployed. Out of this desperate situation, the youth are lured into seeking external employment through externalization of labor bureaus, most of whom are disguised human traffickers.
I met a friend in Kampala, and then we made friendship, and then we were discussing about how I can go into diploma of nursing, and then she told me no, she can find a way how I can go, and she can get for me a sponsorship there in Dubai, that you're going to be working as a housemaid. So I told that guy, I said, God, why are you taking me to housemaid? It's actually after when they've eaten, it's when they give you the food. In carpets, like 10 carpets, these big carpets, heavy ones. Too much for me, it was too heavy for me, because even I felt the back pain, I could feel the back pain, I couldn't sleep.
According to the State Minister for Gender and Culture, Peace Mutuzo, some religious leaders have entered business of human trafficking and cautioned the Ugandans to be careful.
Not all, but some pastors got the ticket
and they tell people, a German generation Chinuwa, no. Be quiet, touch secrets. Because Chamagero. And these girls keep quiet, they never mention anybody. So the following day they tell you, prepare yourself, we are going, I'll take you to a place where you're going to get this mirror working.
Motozo adds that they have cancelled licenses of about 600 recruitment agencies for not complying with the law.
The clips that we get of distressed children who are suffering out of this country are not from these companies which are registered. These are responsible people. The majority of them are from the park companies, and they can afford to advertise themselves. If people who are witch doctors are advertising on radio, how about the park companies?
Nuh Mayambala, the Secretary General, Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agency in Uganda, says that as an association, they have a challenge of briefcase agencies who are tinting the image of their work, but they are working with government to bring them on board.
We have encouraged partnership both with government, all government agencies related to this business. Whenever we get information that is related to such, we inform government.
Solomon Rukenge from Chances Charity, an advocate for child rights, says human trafficking in Uganda is real and calls for responsible bodies to come out and save the youth from this creeping vice.
We believe that the children of this nation, especially the girls, are very vulnerable, and we need our authorities to help us as we partner in this sector to help the children. We need the concerned authorities.
Uganda Police Force recently warned external labor job seekers to watch out and, where possible, seek advice from security agencies before accepting any job offer by unscrupulous recruits. Ambokanya Ibrahim and Jamiru Sekaja reporting for UBC TV News.
Okay, moving on with many Ugandans, including Abe Muchibi and Fiona Mutesi, featuring in international movies. Uganda has started attracting global attention because of its talented public. Abe Muchibi was part of The Last King of Scotland, while Mutesi is the reason for Queen of Katwe. Now, such works have led to increased interest from Colombia, whose movie industry is growing by leaps and bounds, as explained by Ambassador to Africa, that is Elizabeth Taylor.
It's of the most utmost importance for us to be here in Uganda, sharing the culture of Colombia, sharing the talent and art that we do through movie and documentary production. We have an international plan of exposure of Colombia, and with that through that plan, we have a portfolio of movies, but in creative industries also. We have dance, we have other folklore, painting, many different, I would say, modalities of art and culture. For this year 2019, we prioritize Uganda, and today we are going to screen a very important movie, which is Poro, made in Colombia, Poro, hecho en Colombia, that our movie and documentary industry is growing, and this is thanks to a special movie law that was enacted years behind, which allow the local producers and encourage them to do joint productions with other countries. And our hope is that in the future something like that can happen with so many African countries, that we can have these joint productions.
Okay, well, the best of luck there for those in the movie industry. And of course, we know that the entertainment field has indeed brought in lots of money over the years. And of course, for many countries to focus on that means it is very, very important that maybe the talented Ugandans could also do the same. Now, a new product of coffee drink known as Butonde coffee, produced by 3 small producing organizations from the Nyankore Kwetarana Cooperative Union, Kakoba Ankole Coffee Producers Union, Kabohe, and Kibinge Coffee, Bukoma Nsimbi rather, is on market for consumption. Now, Butonde coffee is important for human health, or rather having attributes which can stop development of diabetes B and primarism, and also increases blood circulation in the body, including assisting those who have taken excessive alcohol that have damaged the liver so as for it to get healed. Now, this was disclosed by the General Manager, Ankole Coffee Producers Cooperative Union, Kabohe, John Nwagaba.
They have been supported in terms of capacity building, along with the coffee chain, value addition, and also market linkages. Farmers, they have been able to add value. The 3 farm organizations had to come up with Butonde coffee. Butonde as a name, it originated, it means nature, and Butonde coffee is a joint product owned by the 3 cooperatives, and it has been, we've been creating awareness through establishing Butonde coffee. We've tried to create awareness about coffee so that farmers in our country can be able to appreciate to consume what they are producing, and also to create awareness about what they are producing, how beneficial it is to themselves in terms of health benefits and also economic benefits. So Fairtrade has also supported them to link them to international markets whereby they are getting favorable prices, especially minimum prices for Fairtrade from Fairtrade buyers. They have also been getting a premium, and this premium has supported them to implement social premium projects in terms of social and economic projects, which are helping them to improve the quality of coffee and their social challenges or needs. I'm a Fairtrade staff for Fairtrade Africa, and I'm the business advisor who has been coordinating green projects in Uganda, implemented in central and western Uganda.
So, coffee is very good. It has many good attributes. One, it can stop the development of diabetes B. 2, it increases blood saturation in the body so that you can have good saturation of blood. Thirdly, it can stop rheumatism from developing, plus other sicknesses. And if you have overtaken alcohol and damaged your liver, it can help you to get the liver healed. So, why we came up with Butonde coffee, we found that there are good attributes from coffee in Masaka. We also found there are different good attributes in coffee under Banyankore, and also other different attributes from coffee of Ankore coffee grown in the rich volcanic soils at high altitude. So when you combine those attributes in what we call a blend, you produce a very good product, which is very good. That's why we came up with the Butonde blend to supply to our... Originally, the farmers would stop maybe at drying their coffee, but now we make the farmers own the coffee through the value chain. Now they participate in primary processing, secondary processing. Now we are doing roasting. So at the end of the day, after we have got costs, the farmer will have got a lot of money from...
Come up with this Butonde coffee so that we can start from the grassroots. What do I mean? We start from the real producers who are farmers, and not only farmers but small scale farmers, so that they can opt drinking coffee and their real coffee, so that they feel and they get to recognize the value of drinking coffee and their own coffee. And this one will obviously help them to increase on the market, because the market will start from the grassroots or from themselves, and then it increases abroad. What is the coffee? This is a new product of coffee, and it came as a result of the combination of three small produce organizations. And these are Banyankole Kweta and Cooperative Union, with its headquarters in Mbarara municipality, Ankole Coffee Producers Limited, with its headquarters in Shema, Kaboye, and the third one is Chibinge Coffee, with its headquarters in Komansimbi, the former massacre. So they joined their efforts and they came up together with Butonde Coffee, which is there to promote their farmers and their cooperative unions. My name is Rob Sinjerias, who is the...
Time for us to look at our newspapers here in our digest, and it's quite interesting as the focus here is on the roads, and of course some of those that are really focused on is the technology here that they're seeking to transform the park roads, and of course a number of the parks there, as we see so many tourists come through, but the access sometimes could have been a challenge, and they're seeking to making sure that these are the things that are indeed dealt with at the end of the day. And we're looking at the fact that there is a need for about Uganda Wildlife Authority here spends about 3.5 billion shillings on road maintenance annually, noting that the new technology will cut this cost down significantly. And of course what we're seeing here is that we're going to be having better roads and easier access. Just not so far ago, within I think last month, we're looking at how it was quite difficult to transport to move rather the giraffes from Murchison to another park there, and they had to really go through the trouble of pushing the track. The roads were muddy, it was hard to really access. Now imagine even the tourists themselves could be having hard time accessing some of these national parks. But also we're looking at the fact that the government pledges to support local contractors, and what we're seeing is the fact that government has committed itself to giving financial support to the local engineers and also contractors who are vying to bid for big infrastructure projects. Now the condition, however, is that they must form consortia for the government to be able to do this, or rather achieve this. So up until now, local contractors have been having a hard time in securing government projects, even with the reservation scheme that guaranteed projects below 45 billion shillings to go to the local contractors and engineers. Now the biggest reason for this has been lack of finances and equipment to enable them qualify for the projects, which eliminates them from competing. Of course, which is quite sad. Now, the finance minister there, Matia Kasaija, made the commitment while officiating at the annual Uganda Engineers Forum and celebration to mark 50 years of the Engineers Registration Board. Now, the Engineers Registration Board was created by the government in 1969 as a regulatory body for the engineering profession, which also helps in advising the government through the National Council for Higher Education on the engineering curriculum. And what we're looking at here is that Minister Kasaija comes out and says that the government will provide the consortia with the necessary financial assistance to overcome deficiencies in resources and vital machinery to enable them effectively compete for ongoing infrastructure projects. Now, he also said that presently the government is spending approximately 4 trillion shillings each year on infrastructure projects, most of which are awarded to foreign firms because the local ones lack the financial and technical capabilities. Now, open quotes, most of the money we pay these firms is repatriated to their countries, and there is nothing that we can do about it. Now, if only half of it can remain here, there would be a bigger effect on the economy. Now, this is why I want you to come together and form companies that we can actually support. And please help me to help this country, close quotes, and that is what Minister Matia Kasaija says. And he also adds, or rather say, that the advantage of forming consortia is that the local contractors can easily convince other financiers there and development partners for support, hence increasing their chance to do big projects. Now, previously, local contractors complained of missing out on the infrastructure project, despite the government spending colossal amounts on roads, power, minerals, and excavation, and of course other projects there. Now, in 2017, the government reserved all contracts work worth 10 billion shillings and below for Ugandan farms as part of the efforts to build their local capacity. But also 30% of the value of procurement for contracts, about 45 billion there by foreign companies, is reserved for local suppliers as the government moves to promote local content in public procurement. So we'll see how that plays out eventually. Now, of course, they've come out to complain quite a couple of times, or a number of times, and hopefully this time it will be a whole lot better and much different in regards to the commitment that the government is giving. So, and also if we're looking at the fact that the minister has just recently come out to make this quite clear, and he also says that the move was also aimed at developing the capacity of local contractors, stimulating the growth of industry and creating more jobs for the country's highly youthful population. And like I said, I hope that this does play out quite well eventually for our local engineers. Don't go away, you're still watching Business Today.
Send money from Airtel to Airtel at 60% discounted rates. Yes, you can now send money for as low as 100 shillings and a maximum of 1,000 shillings. And that's not all. You can now withdraw up to 7 million shillings from your nearest Airtel Money agent for as low as 12,500 shillings. Remember, depositing money is free, buying airtime through Airtel Money is free, Airtel Money and PIN registration is free. Do not pay any transaction charges directly to the agent, and never share your PIN number with anyone. Enjoy the lowest rates on sending and withdrawing money on Airtel Money today. Airtel Money, simple, instant, secure. Airtel, the smartphone network.
If you want to benefit from the cabbage, you can decide to go for the dry season planting or the wet season planting. Those are key things to look at. But the other bit is about the yield and the maturity period.
Agriculture has been for years forming the backbone of Uganda's economy, contributing approximately 37% of local growth, with 80% of the population practicing agriculture.
Green tea is different from black tea. Green tea does not go through the fermentation process of the factory, meaning that it has retained all the medicinal values in it.
This is a good leaf for plucking.
Join us every Wednesday as we showcase comprehended and well-researched episodes on agriculture, on the new innovations, planting, harvesting, modern technologies, and more you would like to know in the farming field.
The farmers, they no longer bring more of comb honey.
So after extracting the honey from the frames, then they are removed and placed back in a chupa.
Farm Matters, a program where all your farming needs are addressed.
Solution to farmers for what they need. What farmers need is income in their pocket, isn't it? It's about money in the pocket.
This program has helped me to improve farming skills. Keep watching Farm Matters at UBC.
We're coming to you live from Butekanga in Kamuli district.
In the sub-county where I come from, where my leadership is being practiced, money is really a big problem that is hindering women to join leadership.
And in case you didn't know, Fasi Fasi is a show intended to make way for women in the leadership sphere. How can we create a space where someone who does not have 20 million shillings but has the ideas can become a leader in our community? Did you know that the journey to becoming a politician is very costly, especially for women in rural areas like Kamuli, where the main source of income is subsistence farming? Going by numbers, money seems to be a critical factor in joining the political race. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's make way and make some noise.
there are about 4 clauses where we have big issues. We believe that the farming of coffee, of any crop, there should be free entry and free exit. To require UCDA to ensure that before you grow coffee, they check your soil, for example, is being academic. We have 2 million households that grow coffee. Excuse me. UCDA with 50 employees. How will they do that? And when you regulate at the upstream, people will exit coffee. I'll give you an example in Kenya. Kenya used to produce about 1 million bags of coffee. And over-regulation at production has allowed farmers to exit coffee, to go to farm maize, to go to farm tea, because they are told this and that and that. So I think when it comes to who wants to go in to grow coffee, who wants to get out of growing coffee, how you look at we should also respect the farmers. They are rational human beings. If something makes sense, they look after their coffee. So we support the bill in as far as those clauses that will improve the quality and productivity, but we have very, very serious reservations when it comes to introducing barriers to entering and farming coffee.
I will go by the words of OHTU Charles Peter Maiga. He said it's better to raise...
And no one actually knew about the plight and cause of fistula until His Majesty the Kabaka picked it up. And so for the first 3 years, over 500 million was generated out of this one and given to support the plight of fistula and the women that go through, and not within Uganda, but all over Uganda as a nation. And Chitovu Hospital became the pilot and the spearhead of this. So everyone who went to Chitovu Hospital and so many other hospitals would be able to get the cure and the treatment of fistula. 3 years down the road, we started tackling sickle cells. Now, those of you who don't know what sickle cell does, 31% of the people that live within this region, young babies, young children that are born out of no knowledge, out of sometimes parents that have not tested before they go into marriage, are infected by those damaged cells. They are called sickle cells in the body. And so His Majesty picked this up when Uganda and other regions actually were at right about 40%. As we speak now, it has gone down to 21%, and the awareness that we have created 3 years, 700 million shillings donated to the Central Public Health Laboratories, which is an entity of government of Uganda, which shows that this kingdom actually is not only for Uganda, but a kingdom for everyone. And thank you for the answer. And 700 million to buy sickle cell testing kits, because this is a very expensive disease. I remember the first time the particular went to hand over, a gentleman came with a boy, a young boy, 18 years, who has a level of immunity at 0. That means anything that attacks him will end up killing him. Now, the treatment for this young man within 1 year was at a tune of $100,000. But the privilege that he has is that his father works for the Bank of Uganda, and the Bank of Uganda is able to take care through their medical insurance. Now, just imagine someone who comes from Masajia, where I come from, way beyond where the road is even impassable, and cannot afford even a single dollar for a sickle cell kit. And so this kingdom, 500,000 sickle cell kits, 700 million shillings given this year towards the plight of sickle cell for the last 3 years from this birthday run, and that has moved the levels that have gone there. Now, just within 6 years, we have lifted this one to become the 5th on the African continent and in the 19th in the world.
Round of applause for Coca-Cola. I want to thank Tusker Malt.
In the last 5 years, the client of Centenary Bank has moved from 1.1 million customers to 1.7 million customers.
I want to thank Comfort Homes, Majestic Brands. I want to thank BNK.
Buganda, the Buganda Kingdom. And the institution of the Kabaka is a very, very strong brand in its own right.
And so as much as the Kabaka has touched to produce something that will get the young people away from dying while they are trying to work, to get them a beer that will give them honor and respect. And so out of cassava, which the farmers within the region are growing, Ngule beer is brewed. So after you have the cassava sold to Uganda breweries, you can remain with enough money to pay school fees, take your family to a health center that is good, but also remain with some money to buy Ngule. So you are hitting 1 million birds. And so Rendo was unveiled. Rendo is a purified 6-value lens water. And that's why you see it very clear. And I've had so many comments from people that say, I think Rendo is the tastiest water that we have ever had.
Those evenings where we all seem to be suited up.
Meet the boss. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen, this is a platform for young entrepreneurs to meet the boss interface. And as you've just expressed it here, it's a platform where we have a one-on-one with the youth and where we expect answers there and then. If you don't give us an answer here, then we don't expect an answer. So this is part of the team and you're welcome. It is a platform where we reward and appreciate outstanding individuals in society, like our boss, Ochichiwa Charles Peter Maiga.
I didn't know the people behind this idea, but I was intrigued by the general theme for which they conceived it. Their letter to me, which sought an appointment, said that their company's objective is to promote social development and that they want to enlighten, motivate and empower entrepreneurs and others who seek inspiration in the different fields where they work or operate. According to them, the Kingdom of Buganda has potential which should be of interest to entrepreneurs and to local and international investors, like perhaps Comfort Homes. They also said, as Katikiro, I've made some achievements. It's them who said it, not me. These people. Others write about very grand ideas, which on the face of it look impossible to implement, or even which sound too good to be true. Somebody wrote to me about a project which was going to yield 150 billion shillings. And I'm like, are you serious? Somebody who ordinarily would be expected to be experienced. So the Uptown Group idea sounded realistic, without mentioning that it rotates around my preferred themes on social and economic development. They also gave me reasonable notice. So I requested my staff to invite them for a discussion. When I met them, I was pleasantly surprised. They were so young. You know, when they came to my office, I had a meeting with some other people, and I escorted them out. And I saw young people seated in my outer office. I didn't know these were the people I was waiting for. I thought these were older men and women. Now, the youthful stage of our lives is the most crucial because it largely determines what we turn out to be. I don't know whether there are any Nigerians here, but what I'm saying is the truth. When they discovered oil, they forgot about agriculture. They built a brand new capital and forgot to care about hospitals and schools. Who does this? Who needs a brand new capital? People need education and health. They went for skyscrapers, but forgot to collect the garbage from the streets. Why do you forget the small things? Africa has an appetite for investors, for dams, for industries, big projects. Everywhere you look, we tend to think that is the mark of development. This is my opinion. The starting point should be the ordinary person, the ordinary people, enabling them to earn whatever little they may realize from their seemingly humble trades, but ensuring that these earnings are consistent. Eventually, these little earnings will stimulate their consumption, and the resultant demand will create the need for industries. When it's the right time for industries, if that's the pattern we follow, the industries that will be set up will be those that have a bearing to the lives of ordinary people if we support them to earn from simple undertakings. Look at the need for shoes, for example. If people can earn money from Mwanterimba, you may soon realize that you need to set up a factory in Singo for shoes. I went there in 2016, and most of the kids were walking barefoot all over the place, and every other home had a dish for BBS Telefine and NTV, I presume. And I asked the parents, how is this possible? You can afford solar panels and TV dishes. You can afford shoes. I told them I'm coming back after a year. I want all the kids to have shoes. Don't tell me about poverty. How about the dishes? I went back exactly a year. It was the 16th of November. And about 80%, 75% of the kids had shoes in that school. Consult all the time. Always be thirsty for knowledge. You guys don't read nothing. How do you survive? I just don't know how you survive. I look at you. You've never read a book. It's September. How do you survive? But the biggest demotivator anywhere is lack of integrity. You know, while everyone else is throwing in everything to grow the business, someone else is making under-table deals to enrich themselves. It's terrible. It's terrible. That cannot be our culture. There is a quote by this colonialist, which Stephen Namiaro sent me. Some guy who came to Africa, an explorer, and he said he didn't meet beggars, didn't meet hungry people, there was no corruption in the 19th century. Where did this come from? Where did it come from? We must find an answer to corruption. Mohanj, we must find an answer to corruption in the Ministry of Transport where you work. Because he talks to me, tells me I should offer solutions or whatever else he wants me to do. But what about the corruption in the government, in the public service? How about corruption everywhere in the private sector? Organizations or companies that aren't efficiently run with corruption as the common denominator don't outgrow their infancy. So Uptown Group and everyone else here, if you want to grow and you are not efficient and there is corruption as the common denominator, the company can't grow. And that's true for countries as well. And anyone residing in any African country requires little convincing here.
Well, that is it for today, but we'll be back here tomorrow sometime as we come Monday to Friday from 9 to 10 a.m. My name is Rowena Kajumba. Have yourselves a lovely day.
Send money from Airtel to Airtel at 60% discounted rates. Yes, you can now send money for as low as 100 shillings and a maximum of 1,000 shillings. And that's not all. You can now withdraw up to 7 million shillings from your nearest Airtel Money agent for as low as 12,500 shillings. Remember, depositing money is free. Buying airtime through Airtel Money is free. Airtel Money and PIN registration is free. Do not pay any transaction charges directly to the agent, and never share your PIN number with anyone. Enjoy the lowest rates on sending and withdrawing money on Airtel Money today. Airtel Money. Simple, instant, secure. Airtel, the smartphone network.
We're coming to you live from Butekanga in Kamuli district.
In the sub-county where I come from, where my leadership is being practiced.
Going to pass off. Who opens doors is going to open doors for you. Whatever you have tormented on stops here.